Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. This is Susan Ryan. I'm the Senior Director for the Greenhouse Project. And while we're waiting for others to join the call, we're going to be trying some really interesting things this year and on this webinar. So I'm going to invite you to take advantage of the practice poll. We're going to be utilizing this polling feature throughout the webinar today. So I invite you to just try the poll out. The poll is open. And if you would answer those few questions just to make sure you are starting to get acquainted with that polling feature. And I'll wait just a couple minutes while everybody takes advantage of that poll. If you're just joining the call, this is Susan Ryan with the Greenhouse Project, and I invite you to take advantage of our practice poll. This is a new year, and we're going to be trying some new things. And one of those things is to make our webinars much more interactive. We want to hear your voice, and one way we can do that, we've gotten a new webinar platform, and it has a polling feature, and we're going to utilize that today because we really do want to hear from you. So if you've joined the call, if you would just answer the questions in the practice poll for us, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. If you're just joining the call, this is Susan Ryan with the Greenhouse Project, and I'm going to invite you, while we're waiting for others to join the call, to take advantage of a new polling feature that is associated with our new webinar platform. We're going to try some new things this year, and we're going to kick the new year off with this webinar to let you know a few things that are going on with Greenhouse. But we really want to hear from you, and one of those ways we can do it through our webinar is to utilize this polling feature. So if you've just joined, make sure you click onto the practice poll and answer some of those questions. And then we will get this party started in just another minute. Good afternoon, everyone. It looks like a lot of you have participated in our poll. So we're going to go ahead, get started, and we're going to close the poll right now. So thank you so much for joining. I titled this "The Future is Now." I don't know about you, but I can remember eons ago when I was a little girl and I thought the 2000s were the space age. And now that we're on the precipice of a brand new decade, I am really interested to kind of know where we're going to be going in this new decade. So we will be sharing those results of the poll in just a minute. And there you go. It looks like most of you would agree with me that greenhouse team members are the most resilient. How about that? I would say that's probably a very true statement. And if I can figure out how to advance my slides, we will keep moving. Yep, there we go. So here we are on the precipice of a brand new decade. I look at 2019 as the year for us to get ready. It's the on-ramp to a new decade. And when I think about the future and the vision for Greenhouse, before we can go wide, we've got to go deep. And we've got to really make sure that we are preparing ourselves to be able to do what we need to do internally so that externally we can really achieve much greater, and that what we do together will be really leveraged in a very big way. To do that, I'm going to do it with some of the best people on the face of the earth. This is the Greenhouse team, and this is a team of dedicated, passionate people who are on this journey with you to really make the world a better place to grow old. And this year, we are delighted that we are welcoming 2 team members. We were strong and mighty before, but with the addition of these 2 wonderful women, we are destined to go to even greater lengths. Meg Laporte is our Director of Marketing and Communications. Meg has been a fan of Greenhouse and a woman that's passionate about elders across America, and she's had her own blog about age in America. She has done many things, all things communication, and she is going to really help us to amplify our voice and our impact through our marketing and communications. Ann Ellett is probably no stranger to many of you, especially those of you who have participated in our Best Life Memory Care Initiative. Ann is a nurse practitioner, and I just have to stop and say that having Ann on board is really a personal dream of mine come true. I met Ann probably 15, 20 years ago, and I just thought she was the coolest, smartest person, and really helped to shape my perceptions on those living with dementia because of her bold beliefs that really challenged me to address my own perceptions of those living with dementia. We are excited for the curriculum and the initiative that Ann has authored, and we are excited to bring her on board full-time so that we can really, truly establish our credibility in that memory care space and really be that force to be reckoned with as we go forward. So coming in 2019, we really believed that we needed to get the peer network, our family, if you will, together and really talk about some of the exciting things that are coming forward in 2019. The first thing I want to talk about is the Greenhouse Project relaunch. I'm not sure relaunch is the right word, but here's what I want to say. Let's talk about the why first. Why would Greenhouse be relaunching, rebranding, rebooting, whatever you want to call it? And here's what I want to say. With any innovation that's out there, it is so important that in order to continue to be the leader of the pack, it's important that you keep thinking about what needs to evolve, what needs to change, what needs to happen, so that we stay on the cutting edge and that we are staying ahead and staying abreast of the trends, the landscape that's out there. And so at relaunch, we felt it's important to say, what have we learned and where are we going? And so to that end, we're not discounting where we started. We have some glorious and amazing beginnings at the wonderful place, birthplace of Elvis Presley and birthplace of Greenhouse Project, Tupelo, Mississippi. That's where we began. But how far have we come? As we are 285 homes in 31 states. What are those lessons learned? It's a time to celebrate as we relaunch. And it's a time to envision where we're going to go to broaden our reach and deepen our impact. We're about making a difference. We're about making sure that this is the model across the globe that will work for many groups of people. So that's what our relaunch, our rebrand, our reboot, whatever you want to call it, is all about. I want to thank those at the Leonard Florence Center for Living and our other video participants. Stay tuned. A brand new greenhouse video will be introduced shortly, and we will be sending you all the details as we go forward with that. So what about the peer network? I affectionately call this our community of thought leaders. But where are we going and what's up with it? And to tell you more about that, I'd like to introduce Debbie Wiegand, who is our Director of Operations, and we reconfigured Debbie's role so that she could spend a bit more of her time really intentionally thinking about what do we need to do to grow our roots deep and wide among our peer network. So Debbie, tell us what's up.
Thanks, Susan. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Debbie. It's good to be with you. So, what is up with the peer network? What's new, and where are we headed in 2019? Let's take a look. I'm excited to share some wonderful news with you today about our formerly known peer network. And yes, I did say former. We are giving our peer network a new face, a rebrand, you might call it. So, meet Linked Up 2019. Many of you were involved in some surveys and focus group conversations that we held last year, and you provided the Greenhouse Project with a lot of feedback. We even spent a rather creatively dedicated amount of time at the end of our conference in November exploring what the peer network can and should do for all of you. So we really tried to listen. And our overall theme is to connect, engage, and have impact. So we want you to get linked up in 2019. So where do you fit in? Well, my hope is that you find a place to connect, engage, and have impact. So Meg, let's get started and launch our second poll. We want to get some of your feedback. So if you'll take a second to answer the question, it says, I attended Greenhouse Peer Network webinars in 2018. So select one. Was it 0? Was it 1 to 3 times? Was it 4 to 6 times? Or more than 6? We're interested in your feedback. So I'll give you a few seconds. It's always interesting to hear what people are able to share with us. Let's give it another 10 seconds. I think that should be enough time. All right, I think we've gotten an opportunity to answer this. So Meg, let's see what our results are. All right. There we go. So it looks like there were about 37% of the people on this call who hadn't had the opportunity or didn't participate in a webinar, and about another 39%, almost equal amount, that said 1 to 3 times, and 18% 4 to 6, 5% more than 6. So I think that's interesting information as we continue to move forward and really talk about what we are hearing from you, what we might want to do different. And so in 2019, it's increasingly challenging, I think, to find more time in a day. And as busy professionals in the 24/7 business of caring for people, we're required to be creative and responsive. As well, Linked Up wants to take these requirements that you have to heart and really engage in some new formats for 2019. So to begin with, our webinars are going to be delivered in more bite-sized type chunks and at a faster pace. Now, we are going to continue to record them so that you can review them later, but don't be surprised with new and better options as the year unfolds. There's an interesting 90-20-8 rule that I want to share with you. First, research tells us that people are completely alert and attentive in the first 8 minutes. So we're already 14 minutes into this. Hopefully these polls are keeping you engaged also. But once 20 minutes goes by, our attention level starts to take a dip. So think about your own experience. If you've listened to a podcast lately, how long was it? Or even TV shows. You know, they interrupt with commercials at least every 15 minutes. And last, once you or I hit that 60 to 120 minute range, the level of alertness completely drops. So just think about classroom settings, educational events that you've attended. It's getting more difficult to hold our attention. The human attention span is rather intriguing today. So within the feedback that the Greenhouse Project has received, and among our many visits with all of you, we hear common themes about the challenges that you are engaged in within your greenhouse homes. And our intent in 2019 is to focus on some areas that will make a difference to you. So our webinars for 2019, we've been blessed with research, learning opportunities that shed light on the value of this model. And combined with our merit data and 2 areas that we will provide additional focus on this year, and if you want to go ahead with the next slide, Susan, our collaborative decision-making and institutionalism that we must remain aware of and vigilant against. Now, there are other themes like team building and coordinator roles, convivium, that still remain important to deepening our understanding of their value and better understand how to leverage what's working well. And let us be sure to highlight and celebrate the wonderful contribution that our dedicated sages bring along with all their wisdom. But our topics need to and will reflect the reality of your world, both the challenges and the celebrations. So be sure to let us hear from you about what's working and why, while also connecting with one another where those challenges continue. Our next slide really talks about the fact that because we're busy people, we have differing needs and we have different backgrounds. So I want to highlight this opportunity known as peer group connections. My awesome colleagues, Carol and Claire, have already established peer groups for the SAGEs and for the nurses. And at the annual conference in wonderful Louisville in November, there were several additional disciplines that were interested in coming together and creating some new peer group connections. So those would be Shabazim, guides and educators, and clinical support team members. Now, the SAGEs and nurses are already meeting. The Shabazim, guides and educators, and clinical support team members will have an opportunity to start meeting in February. And if you're on the call and you're not part of one of these groups and would like to be, if you have an interest, please send me a quick email. My email is listed there, and we will get you linked up for this year. So where do you want to plug in for this year? Hopefully there's something here that you find of interest. Our next slide is going to talk a little bit about learning collaboratives. For those of you who were present at our annual conference, you learned that we're switching gears in 2019 and we're creating regional learning collaboratives. There'll be 4 collaboratives in different regions across the country. And we're doing this rather than holding the one large annual conference. We're bringing you an opportunity, again, to connect, engage, and have impact really right at your doorstep. A learning collaborative offers our partners the time to share and learn from one another. And we're going to do this over a 2-day period in your region. And hopefully, the limited need to travel will allow for a number of you to be able to attend, where that's not always the case in larger conferences. So our hope is that you'll send a team of people from your organization to not only meet with other thought leaders, but also join forces in a shared learning time. You know, learning from one another has been one of the greatest values that our greenhouse partners continue to express to us day in and day out. And so this is a time where we can seize the moment and really create impact with the tremendous amount of knowledge that exists because of you and your lived experience. So please consider joining us this year. So where will these learning collaboratives be held? We start off by kicking off our learning collaboratives in the Midwest region with our host site, Porter Hills. So this will be in wonderful Grand Rapids, Michigan in May. Our dates are May 15 to 16. And then we're going to move westward and head over to Hover Senior Living, which is just north of the Denver area, on June 4th and 5th. So doesn't that sound really nice? June in the Denver area. I want to thank both of these organizations for their willingness and support to partner with us on these first-time learning collaboratives. Following the summer break, we're going to offer a Northeast Regional Learning Collaborative in the Rochester, New York area on September 10 and 11. And then finally, we're going to move south and offer the 4th and last Regional Learning Collaborative in the Memphis, Tennessee area. And our date there is September 24 to 25. Now, although attending a regional learning collaborative in your area is ideal, and it has a lot of advantages, if the timing is not right for your team, maybe it conflicts with something you already have going on, please know you're welcome to join a learning collaborative that's outside of your region. Just be sure that you join one. So what are we going to focus on at these collaboratives? For the past 30 years or so, I've been involved in long-term care, and each year our world throws us curveballs and challenges. Some of them consist of recurring themes like reimbursement, workforce, and yet the thought leaders of our times, and yes, I'm talking about those of you on the call, you continue to lead the way. You remain strong, confident, self-assured about the path that we take moving forward, and you're resolute in creating and affirming how your community embraces elderhood. You are those leaders. So by connecting with one another and engaging in some really thoughtful and creative solutions, we do and we will continue to have an impact. We're going to explore the resilience within our partners by coming together during these learning collaboratives and leave with new strategies that allow us to adapt and grow and sustain the greenhouse culture. So you noticed we had that first poll about resilience. Well, here's how we tie it together. So Meg, let's introduce our third poll now. So we'd like your feedback. When I think about the learning collaboratives I am most excited to, and please pick one. Is it to connect with others? Is it to engage in learning new information? Is it to impact my organization by developing a plan of action? Please take a second now to think through those and select one, although they all sound really great. Okay, we'll give you a few more seconds. What are you most excited about when you think about the learning collaboratives? Connect, engage, and impact. So let's close the poll and let's see what you said. All right, so 17% said they're excited about connecting with each other, engaging in learning new information, almost half of those on the call, and impact my organization and develop a plan of action. Well, I'm glad that you're looking at what it is these learning collaboratives might do for you, because I think we've got a great plan in store, which takes me to my next slide. And again, I hope that you're going to plan to attend one of these regional collaboratives. We're asking you to consider bringing a team of 5 or more. So think about nurses, educators, guides, your Shabazim, administrator, clinical support team members, and it doesn't just have to be 5. You can certainly bring more, but think about bringing a team so that we can share and explore the practices that are working for you, and also talk about and explore the challenges together. We have an opportunity to learn from each other and share that knowledge, exchange ideas, and it's only through your participation and discussion with one another that we can truly capitalize on the wealth of innovative thinking and create that dynamic and realistic action plan that leverages the power of together so that we are stronger and more resolute for tomorrow. So look for practical type tools that will address how we onboard new people that are going to be working in our greenhouse homes. What are we doing about retention? And how do we really maximize and leverage each member of the team? So look forward in February to more information. Registration links will begin to be available in February. We'll be sending you out more information. Again, I really, really hope that you'll look at the opportunity to join us in one of those fabulous cities that we've shared with you. And I look forward to seeing you then, if not sooner. So Susan, I turn it back to you now.
Thanks, Debbie, and excited for everything that will transpire with our learning collaboratives and Linked Up. So, Marla, what's up with greenhouse education? If ever there's a person on the team that does not let grass grow under her feet, it is Marla, who continually is updating and improving all of our education and curricula. So Marla, tell us what's coming in 2019 with regards to education.
All right. Thank you, Susan. And I couldn't help but notice, and I'm loving these polls, by the way, that 47% of you said that you were most interested in engaging in learning new information. And so while that was related to the learning collaborative, my topic is really going to be about what's new in education and what is that new information. So as we jump into talking about education, which is one of my favorite topics, I wanted to start with another poll to get an understanding of your starting point. And so Meg, if you could launch the next poll. So look at the selection and pick the answer which best describes greenhouse education at your organization today? So would you say that you thoroughly educate all new staff coming in as well as your current team? Would you say it's more that we have a plan, but we don't always execute due to challenges, perhaps like Debbie was mentioning, workforce challenges? Do you feel that it's more that you lack an education plan and there is room for improvement? Or at this time, the reality is we just do not educate team members on the greenhouse model, either new people coming in or our existing team? So I'll give you a moment to think about that and make your selection. All right. So hopefully you've had the time to pick one of the options, and so let's close the poll and see the results. All right. So interesting, kind of on either end is the we're thorough, 6%, and 6% say we're really not doing it. The vast majority of you say we have a plan, but then it looks like reality gets in the way. And then a smaller percentage, 23%, say we don't even have a plan. So regardless of which camp you're in, I'm excited to share some real resources that we have for you. 2019 is an exciting time, and it's going to bring about significant changes in our approach to education. I would say, in short, the message is we've heard you. We've heard the challenges that you have in sustaining a 6-day core education, and that, in fact, many organizations have significantly modified the education, and even in some instances, eliminated education altogether. We saw at least 6% of you for new employees, and that even more so, you're feeling challenged in sustaining ongoing education of current employees. That's the current reality. And we've heard you that with well over 70% of greenhouse elders living with some form of dementia, we need to better support you to support them. And we know that a 6-day core education and a 4-day Best Life education is not realistic or sustainable in greenhouse homes. So we have some exciting changes in store for you to equip you with resources to sustain and elevate the greenhouse culture in your homes. So what you're seeing come through on the slide are 4 things that I want to talk about. We will have a revised core education. We will be introducing a new educator session, which is our Train the Trainer. We will have a dynamic, what we're calling a greenhouse education toolkit to be made available for greenhouse educators. And we are launching for the first time in 2019 coaching boosters. So let's jump into each one of these. So first of all, revised core education. Revised core education incorporates the last 10 years of our lived experience in greenhouse homes. It's been informed by significant feedback from greenhouse educators, greenhouse guides, Shabazim, greenhouse leadership. It also reflects the lessons that we've learned through merit, through research components, and it will integrate the impact of the core values in the daily lives of our elders and our team members. So how much of core will stay the same and how much of it will change? That's a question we're in the process of determining the answer to as the content is developed and refined. But what we've been doing is analyzing what needs to be taught in the classroom setting, what needs to be taught before someone ever works in a greenhouse home, what can possibly be taught after they've begun working in a greenhouse home, what can be brought into a lab practicum or into in-house education, and what can and should be taught by peer mentors and or educators, and also what education is most relevant just to a subgroup, whether that be nurses and Shabazine, but not perhaps to all of the clinical support team. So we're looking at all of that, and you can also see that we've got some new math going on, where 6 plus 4 can equal 5. So we're taking the 6 days of the current core education, and we're integrating it with 4 days of the current Best Life education to produce a 5-day core classroom experience, and then supplementing that with many more things, which I'll get into in a little bit. But we have the privilege of having Ann Ellett, our dementia specialist, on the call, and she's going to outline really what is our Greenhouse Best Life approach and what about that will be in this new integrated education. So Ann?
Thank you, Marla. Hi, everyone. This is Ann Ellett, and first of all, I just want to say how very pleased I am to be an official part of the Greenhouse Project team now, and I look forward to seeing and talking with a lot more of you over this year. So, as Susan started off saying, Greenhouse Project really wants to establish their credibility in the area of support for elders living with dementia. And with that as the goal, Marla and I and the rest of the team are working together, as Marla said, to bring the core and the Best Life in a collaborative approach and hopefully synthesized into a 5-day program that is more user-friendly and will make it more accessible to everybody. So that's our goal. So those of you that know me, that know about Best Life, you know that Greenhouse Project's commitment to continue to be innovative and do things different than it's done anyplace else in long-term care. That's what you do so well, and we want to build on the core values of the Greenhouse Project and bring that to support the elders who are living with dementia. So on the next slide, just a quick outline there. Best Life is going to challenge the stereotypes of dementia, the stereotypes that devalues the people, the stereotypes that focuses on losses, the stereotypes that says a person living with dementia is unable. And so as we talk about empowering elders, as we talk about deep knowing, as we talk about real relationships, Best Life is going to collaborate with the core curriculum, and we'll bring that out hopefully to all the new greenhouse homes who will be adopting this year, as well as refreshing it at the sites where all of you are today. And the next slide on Best Life. So the other exciting thing that's going to be a part of this collaboration of core and Best Life is, I think most of us have heard about the virtual reality experience. We've seen bits and pieces of that, often used in different modalities. Well, it's coming to the greenhouse homes, to the educational experience. And it's going to allow people to experience what that first person day is like, what their communications, what their interactions are like if you are living with dementia. So it's very high tech, very cutting edge, and it's going to be incorporated into the core and best life experience to help all of us really better understand what that elder is experiencing when we try to support them to have their best day. So it's a new way of learning, a new way of bringing the experience to all of you, and we're really looking forward to it. So Marla and I are deep in thought and planning about what these 5 days are going to look like together. And the first educator opportunity is coming up in April. I think Marla's going to be talking about that. And you'll get to see how these two educational programs have become seamless into one, and it can be available to every greenhouse home. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ed. And I would just echo, truer words have not been said. We are in deep thought and deep planning, including just, two conversations that we had just today, looking at the educator class, looking at bringing in that virtual technology. So it's an exciting time. And so I did want to share with you our plans for the Greenhouse Educator class. As I mentioned, educator class is our train the trainer session to equip in-house educators to go back and teach the comprehensive greenhouse and best life education. So we are offering 3 train the trainer sessions in 2019. So we've added one. Those of you that might be familiar, in previous years, we've offered one in the late winter, spring, and one in the summer. And this year, because we have a completely new package, we want to make sure that we have enough opportunity for people to attend and be equipped with the content. So you see the dates, April 1 through 5, June 24 through 28, and October 21 through 25. Each of these sessions will be held at John Knox Village in Pompano Beach, Florida. And following this webinar, we will have an FAQ document that we've put together on greenhouse education, that if there are questions that may be coming up, we've tried to identify what those might be. And so we'll send that, as well as sending out information on registration. We'll be launching registration for all of our Greenhouse Signature Education courses that will occur in 2019. If you have specific questions or questions that aren't answered on that FAQ, I put my email address on the slide there, and feel free to reach out to me and we can talk more about education. One of the questions might be, who needs to attend the Greenhouse Educator? I'm so glad you asked. And so I would say, first of all, if you're a current greenhouse educator, this class is for you. The content and the materials are going to be new and fresh. You'll also receive, as Anne outlined, this Best Life and Embodied Lab education for you to be able to take back and teach at your organization. It's also going to give you access to the new Greenhouse Toolkit. This class is also for projects that are currently in development, and I suggest that you will be working with your Greenhouse Project Guide to determine who should go and what the best timing is, which of these educator sessions they should be attending. And finally, many greenhouse guides in conversations we've had with them have shared how valuable becoming a greenhouse educator has been to their work as a guide and supporting the self-managed work team. They say that they feel better equipped to do some of that in-the-moment education and to be able to actively sustain the model. So I encourage you to explore the potential of also equipping greenhouse guides as educators. So I've mentioned a few times this thing called the Greenhouse Education Toolkit. And it really is an important component of our new approach to education beyond the classroom. So what exactly is it? Well, throughout 2019 and beyond, the Greenhouse Project will develop resources to support the ongoing education efforts in greenhouse homes for both new employees and current employees. And we will utilize what we're calling multimodality learning. So a little bit, let me speak research just a little bit. Researchers in learning development report that in traditional training, so classroom education, that method only creates about a 37% learning transfer. That means that 37% of people actually implement, do something that they've learned, use it in the workforce. Another research study indicates that in traditional training methods, that about 15% never attempt to apply the learning that they get in the classroom. Another 70% try, but they experience problems, and so they revert back to their old way of doing things. And it's about a remaining 15% that actually apply the learning for the benefit of the organization. I'm not implying that those numbers are necessarily greenhouse numbers, but I do think we can look at the classroom experience and think of it kind of as the central focus and work to improve what I would call the bookend elements. So what are the things that come before in-class education, and what are the things that come after? And we embrace a philosophy or belief that learning is a process and not an event. And so that being the case, it happens over time and it happens beyond the classroom. So the Greenhouse Education Toolkit will include resources in multiple delivery methods. So it will be things such as online learning resources, micro learning, little bits of learning delivered over a period of time. It could be education resources specific to or targeted to be delivered in team meetings. It could be brief self-studies, short video clips, 5-minute podcasts, resources to integrate greenhouse ideals in mandatory in-service education, just to name a few examples of this multimodality learning. So these resources will be rolled out over the course of the year and beyond. So, out of curiosity, I know I rattled off quite a few options, but I would like to conduct our final poll. So when you think about this Greenhouse Education Toolkit, of the options listed, which are you most excited about? And I'm going to ask, it says please select all that apply. I'm going to ask you to pick your top 2. So would it be peer mentor resources for that peer-based on-the-job education? Would it be getting these short module-based education for your educators? Would it be in-service education, online resources, team-based activities? So pick your top 2. Give you a few seconds to look through that list and make your selection. Give you about 10 more seconds. All right, let's close the poll. I'm very curious and I have no idea where this could go. So basics. So top is team-based activities, followed by the module-based education, so really resourcing the educators to take tools back. Then it looks like how do we utilize our peer mentors in what researchers would call kind of a social learning model, online resources, and then in-service education. Well, the good news is, as this toolkit gets rolled out, you won't have to select one of the 5, but you will be given multimodality learning options. So I have one more aspect related to education that I'm excited to share. So in addition to core education, we're also excited about some new opportunities in coaching. So based on merit results over the past 3 years, we've recognized a need to further support coaching in greenhouse homes. And in fact, creating a collaborative coaching culture has been an area of opportunity identified on merit for the past 3 years. And it is one of our primary areas of focus at the Greenhouse Project. And we know that a coaching approach is developed over the course of time far beyond the classroom experience. So we're excited to launch quarterly coaching webinar boosters. These webinar boosters are going to be open to all those who have attended coaching supervision at the Greenhouse office, which is primarily directors of nursing, greenhouse guides, administrators, and other coaching leaders, and those that have attended on-site coaching for partnership. Coaching for partnership is the 2-day class for clinical support team members to understand a coaching skill set and a coaching mindset. So more details on the coaching boosters will follow in the next couple weeks, but we are looking to launch those in March of this year. So again, I think as I hear myself, I've said the word exciting quite a number of times, but really there are exciting education changes ahead in 2019, and we really can't wait for you to be a part of it. So thank you, and I will turn it back to Susan.
Well, thank you, Marla, thank you, Ann, thank you, Debbie, for really casting a vision of where we're going in 2019 so that we can really get ready for a new decade. So stay tuned for a lot of those possibilities becoming reality and all the details that will follow. But what I would like to suggest is that you utilize the question feature on the side of your screen. If you have questions, I would love for you to type those into the question box now, and we will take your questions until the top of the hour. And it looks like we've got a couple questions already. Is the Greenhouse Project addressing and responding for adopters CMS's requirements of participation? I would say the short answer is yes. Can you speak a little more specifically? Maybe type a little more specifically in your chat box, your question box, what you mean. So your phones are muted just in case someone comes in my office. Oh, yes, the phones are muted. What are embodied labs? First time some of us have heard this mentioned. So let me talk a little bit about embodied labs. Embodied labs is virtual reality technology. It's utilizing a VR headset to equip care partners to better understand the experience of someone living with dementia in this case. You put on the VR headset and you are actually experiencing a 360-degree perspective of what it's like to embody a person living with dementia. And it was founded by 2 young women who had an experience with their mom who had a diagnosis at the age of 52 with young onset Alzheimer's. And as teenagers, they became care partners for their mom, and they would say often, I just wish I knew what it was like to see and know what mom is experiencing in her world. And so as they went through college and everything, their passion really became to make a difference. And this is what they've come up with. They've created a VR headset and scenarios that really enable you to simulate, embody that person that's living with dementia, really understand from their perspective what they're experiencing. And the idea is that by doing that, it really increases your empathy and your understanding and your passion to really be able to deliver the best care to somebody living with dementia. So really excited for that. So what is the cost related to the upcoming educational opportunities? Marla, I will let you talk about that on the education side, and then either Marla or Debbie can talk about it on the Learning Collaborative side.
Sure. So I'll address, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm fairly confident I know them. So if you are active in your peer network dues, to be able to attend Greenhouse Educator, the cost this year will be $32.50. And all of that information will be in the registration documents that will be going out very shortly. And Debbie, do you want to address the Learning Collaborative cost?
Sure. So what we're looking at again is a team of 5, and it's going to be we're estimating $300 per person, and that will include lunch and snacks. And then if you have more than 5, we'll look at another rate that makes it conducive so that you can send additional people. So right now, it's looking like it'll be about $300 per person. $1,500 for a team.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Marla. Any other questions? I see a comment somebody has made that you're appreciative of the fact that we are going to do more online support and resources. And I think just to reiterate what Marla said earlier, besides being excited, I think I just want to say that we really have heard you, and we really have wanted to create a plethora of opportunities to really connect, engage, and be able to impact our world. And so we're going to really put into your toolkit all those resources in multimodality ways so that you can really be able to learn and grow and to be able to do the things that you want to do. And again, we are better together. I think our power is in the network and in really coming together and sharing our knowledge and best practices. Any final questions? How do I make sure my homes are on the list for all of this education? Why don't you email Debbie Wiegand to make sure that she has your contact information. My guess is that if you receive this email that you're pretty likely on our list. We are accessing, if you received the invitation to this webinar, you are on our peer network distribution list. So it's a good sign if you're on the webinar that you're on our list. But feel free, if you have specific questions, to reach out to Debbie, all things peer network, or all things, I should say, linked up. And with Marla, all things education. So Debbie's email address is dwiegand, that's DWIEGAND @thegreenhouseproject.org. And Marla DeVries, it's MDeVries, MDEVRIES @thegreenhouseproject.org. Any final questions before we sign off? I will let everybody know that about an hour after the webinar, you will receive a link to the webinar that we just did. In addition, you will receive a link to a survey. it's really important to us as we try to customize, create those best learning opportunities and webinars. We really want to hear from you. So please, I implore you to participate in that survey so that we can hear from you, learn from you, and keep adapting the resources that we provide for you. So with that, I wish you again Happy New Year. One more question. Are you developing any curriculum for legacy homes? Marla, why don't you speak a little bit to cultural transformation and what we're doing with regards to our work in legacy homes?
Sure. So I would say not a few years ago, we launched what we called Legacy Blueprint, which was how do we support organizations in aligning their legacy home culture to the values and practices of Greenhouse. And as we've gone through learning, we've called that our cultural transformation process. So our goal is to support organizations to have, while practices might differ due to some very practical things that are different in legacy homes and in Greenhouse homes, that there is this aligned culture and that the Greenhouse core values are alive and well in both places. So certainly organizations that are coming on board to work with us, building Greenhouse homes, we start with them from the get-go in aligning their legacy culture. A few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we developed a legacy version of core education. So it parallels Greenhouse core education, but with some very specific applications to a legacy environment. And so as we are going through remaking core, as much as possible, we're going to sync up or link up the legacy version. And so part of that education toolkit is going to be a core education that says, if you are teaching it to a legacy environment, follow this path. And if you are teaching it to Greenhouse staff, follow this path or utilize these following steps. Some of that remains to get worked out. As you can imagine, there are some areas that it's easier to integrate and some that it's not. But we're trying to minimize this training package for this many days and then this many for this many days for the different audiences and really have it be connected and integrated. So that's the plan. That's the path we're going down.
Thanks, Marla. And if you have additional questions and want to connect with Marla offline, please feel free to reach out to her via email. Just a real quick question that came in, wondering if we had any international callers on today's call. That answer would be no, not today, but it doesn't mean that our sights and focus won't be to contemplate what does Greenhouse look like outside the United States. So stay tuned for that, for international development. We're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to remind you again to take advantage of that survey. We want to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out to any of us on the team, but particularly Debbie with anything, all things linked up, and education, all things education, to reach out to Marla. And we're here to support you, and together we will achieve more. The best is yet to come. Let's make it a great year. Thanks, everybody, for joining the call.